Okay, so we've been talking about dedication. And last time I mentioned rejoicing in our own and others' virtues. And so that's very important, because when we rejoice, we increase the good karma. Even if we didn't do the action, by rejoicing in others' good actions, we create merit. And because you can see, when we rejoice, our mind becomes happy, our mind's in a virtuous state. So, you can see how it creates merit. And so it's advised to rejoice in the virtuous activities of ourselves and others. And so others includes all ordinary beings, but then also all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Arhats, the Pratyeka Buddhas, the kitties, to really think of all virtue created by everyone everywhere and rejoice in it. And then also not just the virtue that's being created now, but also in the past, and the virtue that sentient beings will create in the future. And so you can get into a whole meditation just on rejoicing at all the goodness that there is in sentient beings helping each other, making offerings, keeping good ethical conduct, practicing fortitude and meditation and bodhicitta, and just think of all the good things people are doing. And it's said that when you do that, if the person's kind of equal level, then you create the same karma that they did. But if they're at a more advanced level, if we rejoice at the virtues of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Arhats and so on, then we create a fraction of their level of what they did. So it's very advantageous to do that. And also it really helps us get in touch with how much goodness there is in the world, and especially when we rejoice at the virtues of like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all the the realized teachers, then it kind of gives us a direction where we want to go in our practice. So we rejoice, and then we also dedicate. Yeah, so we got to remember both of those, rejoicing and dedicating. When you're doing the practice of the 35 Buddhas, it's also called the Sutra of the Three Heaps, which are confession, rejoicing, and dedicating. And if you read the verses at the end, you'll see there's a whole section on rejoicing and a whole section on dedicating. Yeah, and so, this is really emphasizing the importance of those two things. When we dedicate, we also want to do it with an awareness of what we call the circle of three. Okay, so the circle of three means ourselves as the person who's dedicating, the object, the merit we're dedicating to, or it could be also those we're dedicating for, which is the enlightenment of sentient beings, and then the action of dedicating itself. In other words, all the different elements that are involved in dedicating merit, that all of these things arise dependent on each other, that none of them exist inherently with their own essence independent of each other. Okay, so then this becomes a meditation on dependent arising, which also leads you to a contemplation of emptiness, because if these things arise dependent on each other, then they don't have their own inherent essence. Okay, and so when you think about it, and you think of me as the person who's dedicating, it seems like there's a real me who's a real dedicator, But, there's no me who's a dedicator without the action of dedicating. We don't become a dedicator unless there's the action of dedicating, and the merit we're dedicating, and the goal we're dedicating for. Okay, and so similarly, there's no action of dedicating unless there's a dedicator and a dedicatee, and then there's no object or dedicatee unless there's a the action of dedicating and the dedicator. Okay? So by seeing that all of these things don't exist on their own accord, they only become what they are in dependence on each other. Okay? And so in that way we see, oh, there's no inherently existent merit that's being dedicated, you know? And also, something being designated as merit depends on something else being negative karma, yeah? So nothing's inherently good, nothing's inherently bad. Things are good and bad, but dependently, not inherently. Yeah? And similarly, seeing ourselves as some, independent being who's doing the action of dedicating, we need to get rid of that thought and see that the person who's dedicating is also just, dependent on all the other parts and also on their own causes and so on. So there's no kind of concrete person there either who's doing this action. And there's no concrete sentient beings receiving the result of our dedication, okay? So when we do this, then, it's a really complete action because we've had the motivation of bodhicitta. We did the action and then we're dedicating with an understanding of emptiness and dependent arising. So it becomes very, very complete. And by meditating in this way on emptiness and dependent arising at the end, it prevents the merit we created from getting destroyed. Okay? So I'll stop there, and the next time I'll talk about how we destroy our merit if we don't dedicate. Okay? So...